Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna use one of the census data files that Anna downloaded and then create a map with it. So this kind of puts together using the shapefile concept with using the data concept. So there's a bit of data management involved in it. So I'll walk you through just one example here. It's pretty involved. So if you look at just picking household income as an example, so the raw data that that's been downloaded from the census data, this is the Census Bureau, is not something you can use right away. It needs a little bit of revision. So right off the bat, there are a number of issues here that needs to be rectified. You'll see that there are two headers. So one is sort of variable name and the other is the label. You could only have one at the top, one line. So you need to get rid of one. So I'm just gonna get rid of the variable name because it's easier to recognize the actual variable names. And then you have this margin of error, which is good to have from, just kind of looking at how wide it is. But at the end of the day, it's not the field that we're gonna use. So I'll show you how to get rid of it. And in fact, every variable has margin of error. So you can actually get rid of all of them at the same time. So if you go to in Excel, find, so let's look for the word margin. Then you can ask Excel to find all of them. Then you'll find all the words that are margin. Then if you press Shift when it's the first thing is highlighted, Shift, and then highlight the very last, then you'll select all of them. So you can see that it's grayed out all the margin of error columns. And you can close that, the find and replace window, with this highlight intact. Then go up to delete, and then delete columns. Then that will get rid of all the margin of errors. So now you're only left with all the variables. And then what you'll also notice is that the estimate, the word estimate is repeated here. And idea is that you want variable names to be shorter, not terribly long, especially if they're repeated variable names. That's not something that we want. So I'm gonna go back to find. And it seems that it has estimate with 2 exclamation marks there. So I'm gonna look for all of them. Here, instead of find, I'm gonna find them and replace them with nothing. So if you leave them just as nothing, then press replace all, is simply going to get rid of all the estimate, the word estimate, exclamation marks, and they're all gone. And then what you'll also notice is that total is a total number of households in this case. But again, at the top, total is also repeated for all the variables. So I'm gonna sort of repeat that process again, looking for that total, in this case, colon, exclamation marks, click on replace, and I want to get rid of them too with nothing. Then we are left with total, and then these are the household income, all the way from less than 10,000 for a given household up to over 200. So that's one sort of cleaning that I you need to do. Then here, I'll show you later on. This is basically census tract's ID number. And I'm just gonna change the name at the top, tract ID. And again, you'll see why this is important. And here, the ID number up to US. So this much. I'm just gonna copy it and then go back to replace and paste it onto this find. Then again, I'm going to replace it with nothing. In other words, I'm going to get rid of this 14,000,000 USA US with nothing. So there's a way to read this remaining. 17 is a state FIPS code. It's a federal ID number for a given state, and 17 is Illinois. And then you have 031. So next 3 digits is a county ID in the FIPS code. So the 31 happens to be Cook County. So 17031 is a numerical code for Illinois and Cook County. The rest are census tracts. So the first 4 digits and then decimal 00 is technically what it is, but this is basically census tract ID. So if this 0101 actually repeats in other counties and other states, that's why if you need to have this entire code for this to be identified as a census tract in Cook County, Illinois. So I'm gonna save this. I've actually done this earlier, so I'm gonna save it a totally different name, easier to recognize, just household income, and make sure you save it as CSV, not an Excel file. Okay. Once you have done that, you're left with this. And this household income is something that you want to keep. And then I close that. And then I'm going to open up the QGIS. I managed to find a shapefile, a county level census tract. And it is located in here under Cook County. And this is name is very obscure. This PVS batch is something that I got from Census Bureau portal, and it's got lots of different shapefiles in it. I think it's gathered from a number of different organizations and just dumped it into one compressed file. So if you open up this partnership shapefile, again, you'll see 17031. That shows you that it's Cook County shapefiles. Click on that and you'll see a bunch of different files here. If you scroll down quite a bit, you'll see tract and SHP shapefile. If you click on that, add, and you're going to get this message. Just say okay. I'm going to close it. And this is all the census tract files in Cook County. So just to look at what the data looks like behind it. So there are roughly 1,332 census tracts. What is really good is that it actually comes with 2020 population. So that's helpful. Going back to the household income. So the way you incorporate that household income file that I just created, a CSV file, is actually pretty easy. You can just highlight from the browser. You can just drag it onto QGIS, and then it just brings it on as a layer. So now, if you right click, open attribute file, attribute table, that CSV file is here. Now, what's kind of tricky here is that the fact that it is aligned to the left goes to tell you these are read as strings. These are not numbers. These are more, the QGIS thinks of it as a letter 79, not number 79. In other words, we can't really map it. There is a way to get around that, but we need to calculate something anyway. So if you go to this open field calculator at the top, click on it, then you will get this little calculator, and this allows you to create a new variables, which is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to call it less than 10K underscore PC %. And that's going to be a decimal. I just need 1 decimal point there. Now, this allows you to calculate something, and this is how you do it. Remember, this less than 10,000, this variable is a string. So a way to kind of turn it into a number is to put it in quotation mark. So less than, and so the variable name has to be exactly as it appears at the header there. Less than 10,000 in quotation mark, divided by, again in quotes, total, quotes, and I'm going to do times 100. You see down here, it kind of gives you a preview. So if you do that, you just created a new variable, and the new variables are appended all the way to the left. So it's less than. Now it's, what you'll notice is that that variable, new variable, it's aligned to the right instead of to the left. So that goes to tell you that that is a number. Okay, so let's use that to map. The trick is now you have to link the shapefile and the CSV file. To do that, right click, property. That is called a join. So you're joining a file or two files with one another. So you go to joins, add new join at the bottom, this green plus button. It already knows that the only other file that's there is this household income. And within that, now if you remember the household income earlier, I just renamed this census tract ID is tract ID. That's because I knew that this shapefile happened to have tract ID, which is the same concept. So now it's easier to recognize. I didn't necessarily have to change that file name, header name here, just that it's easier to recognize. So I did that for the sake of organization. Press OK. And now you go to, well, let's close that and look at the file here. So this open attribute table should show you not only its data, but also if you scroll to the right, you have this, all the variables that has household income in front. So it actually matched with the household data. So this is how you know that these variables are successfully joined. So let's go back to properties. Now, if you go to symbology, and here, because we have numbers, let's go to what is called graduated color scheme. Then if you click on this column, what column you're gonna map, it's only, obviously, it's not gonna list any string variable, it's only gonna list numeric variables. And thankfully, we have this one that I just calculated. I think red is a little too stark, so let's change that to, how about green? And then if you go down here, classes is a number of categories. So we're creating ordinal categories here. Let's try 4. So if you do quantile, which means it's 4 groups, and each group will have equal number across these 4 groups, equal number of census tracts. Okay, so if you apply, now it's gonna look like this. So let's talk about cleaning this up a little bit. I'm gonna go back to property. Here, this is what I like doing. One of the reasons why this, what I don't like about this map at this point, it looks too busy, and part of it is because I think the borders for census tract just dominates the map. So what I'm going to do is highlight the lower one, shift the bottom one, so that I highlighted the entire, all the selections. Oops. Let's do that again. Then you'll get this. Simple fill. Now the stroke is what the border is. I'm going to get rid of them. Draw transparent. Now, okay, apply. I know this looks weird at the moment, but let's try this. I am going to add, well, first of all, I think it'll be helpful to have the county border as a whole. But this is on top of, it's sitting on top of the census tract. So I'm just gonna make it the filler transparent. So now you will have border for the county there. What I think also will be helpful is if you add, so instead of looking at it from the lenses of census tract, although the data is census tract, if you add municipality shapefile, again, this sits on top, so I can go make the filler transparent. Okay. In fact, I think what might go well with green, this might be a mistake, but let's take a look. Red isn't too bad. Okay, so now you can see that at least certain municipalities really don't have, remember, these are percent. So you have certain areas that have more than half of households, or not more than. So there are no census tracts with more than 50% of households with less than $10,000 of income. Now, what's really not helpful is Chicago being very, very large. So what we can do is add the city community area. Again, go to make the filler transparent. In fact, let's make that border consistent with municipality. Maybe I should make it a little bit different for the city neighborhood. Okay. Blue wasn't probably a good choice there. How about yellow? I have a feeling this might not be great. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna play around with this a little bit more to make it. I think it'd be helpful also if it was a little bit thicker. Okay. So here, what you'll see is that west side and the south side and the southern suburbs have high percentage of low-income households, and also down there. In fact, if you click on municipality, if you want to know what these are, Bloom Township, South Chicago, that makes sense. Village of Madison, a little bit, and so on and so forth. So southern part of Cook County, borderline southern municipalities as well as the south side have high number of households with low income, less than 10,000. Now let's play with this a little bit more. So I'm gonna go back and instead of 4, I'm gonna make it 5. Again, I'm gonna do the same thing. Get rid of the borders. Okay, so what it did is it made the categories a little more granular. And you'll see that even the south side, the west side pretty much stayed the same, it seems. So let's look at community area. This looks to be probably North Lawndale, East Garfield Park, Austin. Okay, so that's the west side. And then you have Englewood, Woodlawn, that area being prominently the south side. So it looks to me that Bridgeport area was further distinguished here. So you have higher percentage of households with low income that are sort of along the lake, and then large part of the south side here. But that income issues of low income really disappears, obviously on the north side and northwestern suburbs and outlying Cook County municipalities. So this is kind of one way to kind of play around with the data for us to identify those areas that may be in need of services. And in fact, we're going to talk more about sort of distinguishing needs versus demands. You could potentially identify needs here, but it doesn't mean that demands are coming from these areas. We'll probably have to think about what that means to identify needs and whether those are connected to demands for our work. But I thought this was a good example of just kind of using one variable. And as you saw, there's a bit of data management that you need to do before creating a map like this. So it gets a little more complicated once we have more than one variable to map. So we'll explore that later, but this is sort of the beginning of how to use the census data for mapping.